what kind of guy who wants to control everyone openly walks into the bullets that he knows he's going to take?
Yeah.
Do I wonder about who goes behind the scenes, man in a black hat, and says certain things? I do. Like, I look at Jack Dorsey. I'm a moderate fan of Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
That said, and I'll give context here, when I saw him in front of the congressional panels last year, in front of a guy I don't particularly like, Ted Cruz, I watched Ted Cruz body bag him, and I was rooting for it because I'm like, he's got him. He's spot the fuck on here.
What was the context?
The context was when it started with like the whole Hunter Biden story with the New York Post where they suppressed that on Twitter. And we've seen unconscionable censorship on all these platforms.
Agreed.
And Twitter as well. And I see Jack Dorsey in that situation sitting there. He's a smart guy. Clearly knowing he has no case to argue against Cruz other than, by the way, they are technically allowed to do this because the laws allow them to do it.
They're a private business.
Right.
Yeah.
And someone like Ted Cruz, by the way, runs into a hypocritical argument here because his whole stance is like a streamlined Southern conservative is government nowhere. Well, how would you fix this? You would fix it by using the government.
You'd have to loop them in. Yeah.
So which one is it here, Ted? Right? So that's where I'm like, well, that's the flaw in your argument. But the argument itself about suppression of speech, he's killing Dorsey on this. Mm-hmm. And yet Jack Dorsey is the same guy who openly sits in front of the bullets and takes them. And he knows he looks bad in there.
Yeah.
He's the same guy who allows his platform to deplatform all these people and censor speech that goes one way that they don't particularly like, and it's not ridiculousness. And yet he's also the same guy who advocates, and has been since fucking day one almost, things like Bitcoin from a liberal libertarian perspective of open source tech for people to utilize to take control of their own life. And he's also advocating and trying to build blue sky here, which solves all those problems and would take away his quote unquote, I'm going to put that in big air quotes, I'm landing the plane here, his power to deplatform people on a platform like Twitter by creating a better one where he can't do that. He's doing all these things that fly directly in each other's face.
Like hypocritical.
Yes.
Almost, yeah.
And he's doing it openly. And he knows people can see that. And so this is where I put on the tinfoil hat and go, man in the black hat showing up to his door and going, knock, 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 Jackie boy. Hey, guess what?
Take the story.
You're taking Trump off Twitter. Hey, guess what? Yeah. You're going to do this right now. Hey, guess what? We don't like this. This is off. And he has no decision power because, by the way, he's a public company and there's a lot of money behind the men in the black hat who are doing it. And the men in the black hat are the CIA.
That could definitely be a possibility. Yeah. And what do you do about that?
I don't know, man.
That's tough. That's so multi-layered. Because you're right, he's doing all these things that, and a lot of the things he does, points to like freedom, but then censorship on his platform, it almost does make you wonder a little bit, right?
I think he's trying to tell us that's where I give him credit, and I understand if people are like, fuck Jack Dorsey right now, fuck you and your opinion on this, I understand that. I have to accept that some people are going to think that way, but I am looking at this, I try to look at actions. Mm-hmm. I try to look at actions and then I try to imagine the burden and weight that could exist behind those actions that have nothing to do with the person. And I have seen the actions I listed about, like Bitcoin, about trying to build blue sky, stuff like that, which hasn't happened yet. Maybe that'll get shut down, right? I see these actions and I go, he's trying to...
It sounds like more good than bad.
Yes, he's trying to be that guy.
Yeah.
He's trying to be that guy. He also... I don't know if you ever saw this, but he went on Joe Rogan. This is like 2.5 years ago now. You ever see this?
I don't know if I watched Jack on Joe Rogan. I don't think so.
It's amazing. He goes on Rogan. They have a nice conversation. Rogan doesn't press him on all this censorship stuff because they were just talking. Mm-hmm. Rogan gets ripped. His fans were coming at him like, how dare you do this without asking him about that? And he's like, oh my God, I didn't. It was totally unintentional. Yeah. And so Jack, Tim Pool, who's like a guerrilla journalist, friends with Joe, is flipping out. Joe brings him on his own episode. Does 3 hours flipping out on Jack and censorship. And Joe's like, I wanted to give it a platform because I failed, whatever. Jack then reaches out and says, now he heard Tim Pool. Tim Pool's at least an intelligent guy. He's making all these cases. And on the censorship front, he's got a winning case.
Right.
He reaches out and says, would Tim want to do a podcast with you and me? And I'll bring in our global head of whatever, like security or something like that. And they're like, yeah, fuck yeah. And they did it. And I'm not going to lie, Tim Pool didn't even, in my opinion, perform that well when they did it, but he won the debate heavily. And Jack knows that. What kind of guy who wants to control everyone openly walks into the bullets that he knows he's going to take?
Yeah. I bet a lot of these companies wish they could tell us some of this behind the scenes stuff that probably does happen.